Morality. Objective morality is that which can be observed and seen apart from any ideology.
It's a little bit narrow.
It is. So one example of that, let's use natural law in terms of the fact that you would agree that human beings are born and do become moral agents of one kind or another.
They have innate morality.
Yeah, they have a lay morality.
They have innate morality.
Innate morality. So they have an innate moral structure to their consciousness. Yeah. However, in terms of anchoring that objective moral system so that it cannot be subverted by any ideology, political or otherwise, you have to anchor that moral structure on a claim of truth. And a claim of truth doesn't make any sense if there isn't a God.
I would say the opposite.
Do you believe that
God is used to undermine that morality?
Let me ask you this question. Do you believe that there is such a thing as truth?
I believe that there's an objective morality.
Do you believe that there's such a thing as truth?
Well, I'm a mathematician, so there are truths in mathematics.
You're still equivocating. Do you believe that there's such a thing as truth?
It depends on what we're talking about.
Truth. Something that corresponds...
If you want to say the truth of God, for example, then I'd have to say no.
No, I'm saying something that corresponds closely to reality.
Sensibly, that it's axiomatic, but we could say there is an objective reality.
Thank you. So there is an objective morality. So who defines
reality? I would say an objective reality.
Reality from which we
I do
can
also
draw.
agree there's an objective morality.
From which we can draw truths. So, for example, we can draw the truth that the point of sexual conduct is reproduction. Agreed?
Yeah, gene propagation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So gene propagation is the point of sexual conduct, right?
Yes.
Not pleasure.
At the reduced level, yes.
Not pleasure.
Yes, but the pleasure comes from the fact that you...
Pleasure is the reward that you get for reproducing.
It's what encourages you to...
But the point of sexual conduct is not pleasure. So we can draw from this objective reality certain sexual moral truths.
Yeah, but there's a little bit of a jump, because for most people at their conscious level, the purpose of sex is for pleasure.
Because of a political ideology that has told them so?
No.
Not because of any grounding in truth?
No, because it's intrinsic to human beings to feel pleasure when they have sex.
The license to pursue pleasure is a cultural, political agenda that was born in the 1960s. What I'm saying is that we can draw from the reality that sex is about reproduction.
Scientifically, yeah.
Yes. That therefore the point of sex is not primarily pleasure, but that is a secondary accident to the incident of reproduction.
I disagree.
Okay, you disagree. However, you're arguing against what is obvious.
No, I'm not.
You're arguing against an objective reality.
I'm saying they're two separate things. There is reproduction and there's pleasure.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is how political narrative distorts our perception of reality. The pursuit of sexual pleasure as an end in of itself is contrary to natural conduct.
No, I totally disagree with that.
It is like a man who eats not to sustain himself, but simply for the enjoyment of the flavour of food.
Which they do.
And that is also contrary to what is naturally, intrinsically rooted in the natural order.
It's not for sustenance.
I agree, and that is why, as a moral system, you would say it is wrong to be gluttonous, and it is wrong to practice sexual licentiousness.
Right, but you could argue that in a secular fashion, because if you overeat, you would have the experience of obesity potentially, and your body would break down.
And which secular authorities are arguing that exactly?
Scientists would argue that, nutritionists would argue that.
No.
They're not religious.
They are not saying that it's morally wrong. They're just saying that.
What do we mean by moral? We mean right. We mean
exactly.
We mean desirable and undesirable.
No. No, that's what you're defining it.
No.
That's what you're defining.
No, I've seen a definition where it is that.
No, that's what your definition is.
How do we define right and wrong?
Right. What I define right and wrong is that which corresponds to that which is true.
Yeah, but you're going to define right and wrong what your God tells you.
Yes. And what are you defining right and wrong as?
There are intrinsic morals innate in us.
Intrinsic morals innate within us. I agree. My faith teaches that. It's called natural law. Do you know what natural law is? Do you know what natural law is?
I don't. You go for it. That's easy for you to say.
So natural law is the Christian doctrine that God, as He created the natural world, structured it in such a way that we can draw from it lessons of truth, lessons of morality. Here's why we need God to underpin objective morality.
We don't.
We do,
No, we
because now we have a disagreement between us. I say he's wrong, and he
don't.
says I'm wrong.
No, you don't.
No.
You do accept
No,
that
hold
none
on.
of us want to be harmed.
What we have is two truth claims, and I believe two moral systems. You have indicated that you want to base your moral system on evolution. I believe it should be based on revelation. We disagree. This is why you need God, because God allows you to have a common narrative. Yes.
What happens when we deal with the 300 gods and they've all got their different moral positions?
I know.
How do we deal with that?
Absolutely. So you deal with it by measuring truth by that which corresponds closest to reality.
Well, that's mine.
So you say that's yours. You say you say that you simply should live a life in which you don't hurt others, right?
I think it's the basis of objective morality.
So here we have two moral systems being proposed. One by the atheist, who says avoid evil, avoid hurting other people.
No, I'm not saying that is intrinsic. That's intrinsic to us.
What I have said is that Christ gives a better moral example. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. So that means the good that you want for yourself, you should pursue for those around you. So one is simply about avoiding hurting others, and the other is about pursuing what is best for other people. Now, which of these two moral systems will produce the most good?
You're asking me that question?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
You have no idea. I'm confident that it's Christ.
I'm not confident either.
Because no charity was ever set up because they simply were trying to avoid hurting people.
The problem with religion...
What does Christ teach me to do? He teaches me to love my enemies, to love my neighbor, to love myself, to love my God, to love my community. Tell me, do you have any problem with that?
Absolutely not.
Do you have any problem with that?
But we don't need Christ for that.
We don't. I'm like
So
that
who was-
already.
but
So
who
how
was
is
it?
it I'm like that already without
Right.
your book then?
But you're not. That's the point. You're not, because it's
You're
because
trying to
we've
make out that you're
it's because we've had 1,000 years of this teaching in our culture that you understand that love is the highest maxim. That's
comes
why you need Jesus.
And that comes back to the argument you're saying 3,000 years ago they were immoral.
Look at our society
Which
today.
they were not.
Look at our society today. Our society has increasingly moved away from the teachings of Christ. Increasingly moved away from the teachings of Christ. And what has that resulted
I
in?
thought Christianity was great.
It's in this country, no. It has resulted in family breakdown, in the license to abort your children. It has resulted in a abuse of workers. It has resulted in an increase in injustice.
Well, I don't believe in abortion. I think it's murder. Right?
I agree.
Now, I'm not a Christian. How is that possible? How is that possible that I've got
And
that
where do
belief?
you think
No,
you
how
got
is
that moral
possible?
framework from?
No, how is that possible?
Where do you think they got the moral
No,
framework?
I asked the question.
Okay, you inherited it from the Christian
Can't actually
culture
call it
of our
murder,
age.
guys. You
A
can't
few minutes ago you said I've been liberalised.
You have in many ways.
So why is it that I've chosen in this particular topic to believe in the Christian
Because
way?
influencing a worldview is not a total sum game.
Right.
It isn't a case that. It isn't a case that. It isn't a case.
You can pick and choose.
Yes, you do.
Right, that's my initial argument.
And I know it is, but the point is, brother, when we do that, when we pick and choose our own moral system,
Yes.
what we are saying is that we are the moral arbiter. And if we are saying that we are the moral arbiter, that means that we can make the moral choice to do wrong.
I'm not saying that. You may be saying that, but I'm not saying
And
that.
that's why
I'm saying
you
there is
need
objective
Jesus
morality.
to
I'm not the
ground
arbiter.
your reality, because you have made yourself the moral arbiter, and I am not suggesting.
But it's okay if
One
I don't
second.
believe in abortion.
One second. You have made yourself the moral arbiter. And I am not saying that that means that you have suddenly decided that you're going to stop murdering people and robbing. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that now that you have decided that you're the highest moral authority, in theory, potentially, tomorrow, you could decide that what is morally bad is something that is morally good to you. And that's why it's a bad moral system.
So good at Christmas.